Hey everybody, Jared with Second Life Design. I'm going to go over my router planing setup. I get a lot of questions on how I flatten big slabs and how I get them smooth after I chainsaw mill them. So I'm going to go over my router planing process, the sled I use and my process and kind of my thinking with it. And we'll kind of go from there. I don't know if this will be one video or two. We'll see what we get into. So just kind of follow along with me. Any questions or comments, drop them below. Thanks. All right, so this is my setup. This is what I got. This slab is a little over 5 feet long, 38 inches wide, and I'm gonna get this thing flat. That's the hope. This is all 12/4 or 3 inches thick. It has a little bit of a twist to it. It's got that opposite corner is twisted up, so you can get a little bit of rock to it. In cases like that, what I like to do is shim the opposite corners to where it's kind of splitting the difference. So, like right now on this end, there is, I think I measured it like at an inch. It's an inch up off the table. So, what I'm gonna do, we're doing this in real time. I'm gonna shim this up to where this is about half an inch off of the bench. So that's half an inch off there. That makes the other end a half an inch off. So that makes the slab as flat as it can be, as is relatively flat. So I'm not making it, when I'm planing this off, it's not gonna be really thin at one corner and really thick at the other. So it kind of splits the difference. The biggest difference between my setup and other people's, I don't have dedicated rails that I keep on my workbench. A lot of people would set up long 2x6s or something in a kind of fashion going down the whole length of the workbench and then adjust those for height. I don't mess with all that. I really don't, I haven't really seen the need. I use this, I just take some scrap pieces and glue those up, and my workbench is good and flat, so if I have flat pieces on there, that keeps everything flat. What this does for me is makes it so this whole thing is kind of portable. It moves wherever I need it to, and I can just slide it up and down. It's smooth enough, it slides up and down the workbench, and that's all I need. So that works for me. When I'm router planing, I start with my A side first. So the side that is going to be the show side, the finish side, that's the side I start up with. So this is the side that I will flatten to. This is the side where it's going to be showing. It's going to have all these cracks all filled in with epoxy. This is the side that's going to be showing. So I will get this one good and flat. Do the A side first. Get it all good and flat. Flip it over. Work from the B side, the back side, and that is where you take it down to final thickness. You don't care what that looks like, so that's where you take all the waste off of. So that's kind of my process with it. I think people try and get in a hurry where they think that they can take off like, 3/4 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch at a time. I go a lot slower. It takes me longer, but I try not to have any tear out. I've had some issues with that before, and so I just take a little bit smaller bites and it goes off easier and less sanding afterwards. So, one last few tips I guess I can think of. The routers are going to be always kind of tough. Router planing is hell on routers. It's just a lot of load. It's a lot of side loading. I'm kind of experimenting different bits. This one's like an inch diameter. Intuitively, you want to run, people would think, oh, I'll just run a bigger bit that we can take off more material. Well, that's fine, but if your router can't keep up with it, doesn't have the power, it's not the best quality, you're just going to destroy a router doing that. It's just going to side load it too much and heat it up and burn that thing out. So you got to kind of find a sweet spot of, an inch and a half, whatever, that's going to work best with the router, so you're not overloading it. I think mine's like a 2 or 2 1/4 horse, and that 1 inch size works best for me. Like I said, it takes a little longer, but I'm not too concerned about it. Regarding the sleds, where the biggest, kind of one of the issues I found with this, I don't say the biggest, is flex. So like the thing could flex, if you're pushing too hard on it in the very middle, you can force that down, and that'll introduce some cup to your slab. So it's hard to do on these wider ones, but you're reaching over that damn thing so far. You just can't lean on the router, lean on the sled. even small amounts, you know, I mean, you can push down on this thing pretty damn hard, and it can flex, you know, a quarter or eighth of an inch. Well, that makes, you know, when you're trying to get something flat and parallel to the other side, that makes big problems. So, you know, make the sled really stout, really strong. You'll see a lot of people, they'll run the sides way up, and that just adds more kind of rigidity to it. You know, it keeps that flexion down. So keep an eye on that. I know as you get into wider slabs, that's where people have bigger problems with it. So yeah, I mean, you gotta find what works best for you. This is a very, very, very messy process. It will throw chips everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. You will find chips everywhere. Very messy process. You're using a bit spinning at 20,000 RPM to fling wood chips across your shop. So be prepared for a mess. If you're taking off a lot of material, you're gonna have a lot of mess. So I'll make a couple passes here, and we'll catch back up and pick it up from there. Okay, I've got some flattening done. It actually worked out pretty well. It's hard to see in here, but my two high corners, this one and that one, are where I did all the router planing. You can see, like up here, it didn't do anything. And the same way in the opposite corner. So that worked out well to plan. That's exactly what I wanted. So now my high corners are down, and it's a little bit closer to flat. I don't know if it looks pretty close here. So what I'll do now, this is still my A side. I will probably readjust, put my nicer finish router bit in there, and I will take my final pass on here if it works out. So I'll take another 1/4 inch off. In the middle sections here, it was barely taking anything off, and like up there and down here, it wasn't taking anything. So I want to make sure they're all flat and parallel. So I will now go to the next section, take all the way off, so I'm touching the whole work surface and taking something off, hopefully not more than 1/4 inch. And then I'll be done with the A side. Done, it'll be flat. Then I flip over and flatten that down. So that'll probably be the next steps. So keep following along. All right, so A side is all the way flat, all the way parallel, here, all the way flat really. So now that side is done. It's done in the sense that I'm not gonna do any more flattening to it. So now we flip it over, and that super flat side will face the super flat workbench, and then I router plane the back. And that's what gives me my two coplanar sides. So I've been cleaning up as I'm going along, but I do want to point out something that's kind of interesting and how this all works out. I notoriously, when I cut my slabs, I always go a little thicker, and this is exactly why. This was cut at 12/4. I'm hoping for a final thickness of 2 inches. Let's see what we got here. So I'm pretty close. I have about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch to mess with. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of material coming off the thick side, but the thin side, and I have another one over there, there's not a lot. So, you know, you can always take the stuff off, you can never put it on. So that's why I always cut a little bit thicker with my slabs, and it serves me well. So keep following along, and we'll see what we can get done. All right, I got this flipped over. Started taking off my second level on the B side, getting closer to totally coplanar. You can see kind of it in this area, it didn't really touch it. And I took everything off here and up in that corner. It's basically the same as when I started on the A side. You can see it's still just a little low. My final thickness is actually gonna work out really well. But this is it. At this point, I really could stop. I'm gonna put some struts across here, some channel to reinforce this, but this is really the process. That's pretty much it. It's pretty straightforward. I'm probably gonna wrap up the video here. I don't wanna get too long. Maybe do a follow-up if there's some questions, but really messy process. Just take your time. With the big slabs, there is no A, B, or C to it. You just kind of go with what you need to get done and reinforce it however you need, and that's what you go with. There is no one way to do it because it can all be different. It can all change. So, yeah, I'm gonna take this down to final thickness. I've got another 3/8 of an inch, I think I'm gonna take off, and I'll give me to 2 inches, which will match my legs to put them at a good 30 for final thickness, final height of table. So that's what I ended up with. Any questions, comments, leave them below. Please hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at Second Life Design. Anything else I can do, let me know. Thanks.